So we just said the word we need to know for all of these problems, all the trig problems, is SOHCAHTOA. SOHCAHTOA. And what does that stand for? Sine is opposite hypotenuse. Cosine?
Cosine is adjacent and hypotenuse.
Good. And tangent? Opposite and adjacent. So this question says, if A is 18, B is 80, and C is 82, find the tangent of B. So B is here, right? We got to locate the angle first. We said tangent is what two sides? Opposite and adjacent. So what's opposite angle B? 80. Good. What's adjacent to angle B? 18. Remember, there's technically two answers there, but the 82 is the hypotenuse, so we don't use it. You with me so far?
Yeah.
Is that a simplified fraction?
No.
No. What goes into both 80 and 18? 2 would be 40, and 9. Is that a simplified fraction?
9, 5,
That's 45. All right, 40 over 9 cannot be reduced. So this is the tangent of B. So now this only asks for tangent, but what if I had also asked for sine of B? Sine is what two sides? Opposite hypotenuse. So what's opposite angle B? 80. What's the hypotenuse? 82. I can reduce that by 2 again, and I get 40 over 41. That's as far as that goes. And I could go a step further and say, what's cosine of B? Cosine is what? Adjacent hypotenuse. So what's adjacent to B? 18. And the hypotenuse? 82. So that would be 9 over 41. So on your test, I will give you, I'll let you use your calculator the whole time, but on a question like this, it's going to say answer is a simplified fraction. So you must keep it in fraction form. Like if I do 40 divided by 9 and I get a decimal, now my answer's wrong. So you're going to make sure that you only use it when you need it. Okay, you could use it to check things, like if I wanted to divide 80 by 2 to make sure I'm doing that right, that's fine. But your answer should not be a decimal. You don't want your calculator to do too much work for you. Questions on that one? So again, you're going to question just like that on your test. It's going to ask you, but it's going to ask for all three: sine, cosine, and tangent of an angle. Okay, then we got ones that were like this. So I got A is 17. This little side over here is 17. God bless you. Angle A is 31. And I want to find B to the nearest tenth. So I'm looking at side B. In relationship to that 31, where is 17? To the 31? It's opposite, right? What about the B? Adjacent, right? This would be adjacent. So this would be opposite and this would be adjacent. So which of my trig functions has opposite and adjacent in it? Tangent. Tangent of the angle, which in this case is A, would equal the side opposite it over the side adjacent to it. So the tangent of 31 degrees would be opposite, which is 17, over adjacent, which is B. Now how do I solve this?
You have to make them both a fraction to a
Good. One way is make them both a ratio, cross multiply. And then to get B by itself, I'm going to divide by the tangent of 31. And I warned you last week, and I'll tell you right now, depending on the calculator you're going to use, you have to type that in completely different order. If it's a calculator that when you hit the button tan, the word tan shows up, then you're going to type it in as 17 divided by tan 31. And then I'm going to hit equals. So if I do that, 17 divided by tangent 31, and I'd get B equals 28.29. And if I want to round it to the nearest tenth, that means I keep how many decimals? tenth is 1 decimal. So I'm going to look at that 9. The 9's bigger than 5 or bigger, so I'm going to bump up that 2. And B is 28.3. Now, if my calculator does not store the word tan, then I have to do this in the complete opposite order. I have to do 17 divided by, and then I would do 31, then tan, then equals. So you have to have a calculator on Thursday. It has to be one you're comfortable with because it sucks to go through all that work and then not be able to get to an answer because you don't know how to use your calculator, right? So my advice is have it with you tomorrow. I'm going to nag you every day until you bring it. Put it in your bag. Bring it with you tomorrow. Tonight when you do your homework, practice with that calculator. If you use your one from your phone, it might behave completely differently than the one you're going to use on the test, and then you're confused. And I said it the other day, but I will not teach you how to use your calculator on Thursday. It will not happen. You bring it in tomorrow, you've got a question on it, no problem. You have it with you Wednesday, you have a question on how to use it, no problem. Test day, no. Sure. Cool. Any questions on 2? Yep. All right, then comes 3. So again, you're given information. A is 9, so this side is 9. Angle B is 74, and it wants you to find C to the nearest tenth. So in respect to that 74, 9 is what? God bless you. Adjacent. In respect to that 74, C is what? Hypotenuse. So which of your trig functions have adjacent and a hypotenuse? Cosine. Cosine. Cosine of angle B would equal adjacent over hypotenuse. So the cosine of 74 equals adjacent, which is 9, over the hypotenuse, which is C. Because of the word SOHCAHTOA, right? So which side did I have? I had an adjacent side, and I'm looking for a hypotenuse. Adjacent and hypotenuse is cosine. So it depends on which of the 3 you have or are looking for. Exactly. So if I had given you B and asked for C, that's opposite in hypotenuse. That's sine. Yep. Jordan, what was that?
If I don't understand this in time.
All right, then this goes over 1. I cross multiply. C times the cosine of 74 equals 9. And then I divide both sides by the cosine of 74. So again, calculator, 9 divided by cosine 74. And I get 32.65. So if I want to round to the nearest tenth, how does that round? Good, 32.7. Questions on 1, 2, or 3? So we're going to finish the notes, and then 4 will be done tomorrow, because that's the stuff we didn't get to. All right, so we're solving for x here, right? I'm looking at angle 25, which is here, 10 and x. So in respect to 25, where's 10? Opposite. How about where's x? Adjacent. So which of my trig functions has opposite and adjacent? Tangent, right? So I would say the tangent of 25 equals opposite, which is 10, over adjacent, which is x. So then I put them both into fraction format. This goes over 1. Cross multiply x times the tangent of 25 equals 10. Divide both sides by the tangent 25. And then I would do 10 divided by tangent 25, and I get 21.44, which rounds to 21.4. So, sorry? No, so 4 is less than 5, right? Like this 4, you go to the one after it, right? The one after it, if it's less than 4, less than 5, it just drops off. If it's 5 or greater, then it's going to round up. Okay. Some of the questions on your test are multiple choice, and some of them are not. So you want to make sure you know how to do both. The hard part about the multiple choice is if you circle one and you give me no work and there's no and it's wrong, like all the points are gone. So you're going to make sure that you set it up, because let's say you set this up correctly, but then you multiply instead of dividing. I'd like to give you partial credit, but I can't give you anything if you circle the wrong one and you show me no work. Does that make sense? Yeah. So like same goes for like the last time when you set up my proportions and stuff like that for the similar, you got to set it up, okay? Circling those with no work and you get the no credit. So you want to make sure you're setting all this stuff up. All right, so let's finish. This was 8-3. On Friday, we talked about what trig was. We talked about SOHCAHTOA and how important that word is. We worked through the ratios. We used the calculator to find this off. We solved the triangle for example 3 and example 4. And we're here at example 5. All right, so now we're flip-flopping because it's asking for the angle and it's giving you the actual tangent or the actual cosine. So notice that this is where my angle usually goes, right? The tangent of an angle usually equals something. But now I'm saying the tangent of what angle gives me this value. So there's absolutely no work attached to this other than the calculator. And if you look at your calculator, so look at your calculator right now. You, above the button sine, cosine, and tangent, have something that says sine -1, cosine -1, and tangent -1. That's when you use these. If you're using your iPhone calculator, you have to hit second. And then you'll see tangent -1, cosine -1, and sine of -1. So when we're looking for the angle, we use those trig functions. Tan -1, sine -1, and cosine -1. So in this example, I literally say tangent -1 of 2.4751. If your calculator stores the word tan, then you type it in exactly like that. Second, tangent 2.4751 and hit enter. And you get 68.0 degrees. If your calculator doesn't store the word tangent, then you're going to do it in the reverse. 2.4751. Second tangent. Who has their calculator with them right now that's practicing? Okay, make sure it's working. Make sure you type that in. Make sure you get the right answer. Because remember, the other thing is that the mode has to be in degrees. Well, I need after then you can, yeah. Okay, so if I wanted to find B, how do I do it? Cosine now, right? So cosine -1, 0.8098. Again, with your calculator, if it stores the word cosine, then you're going to do second cosine first, 0.8098. If it doesn't store it, then you're going to do that first and then hit second cosine. And here I get 35.92, which is 35.9. No, if it's 9.2, it drops off, right? 35.92, and we're rounding to the 10th. We come here. That's less than 5, so it drops off. You say, you're getting something different? All right, example 6. Find the value of x, round to the nearest degree. Where is x located, on a side or at an angle? At an angle, so I know I'm using the -1 buttons. Does that make sense? No. If I'm looking for a side, I use the regular buttons. If I'm looking for an angle, I use the -1s.
Side, negative.
Side, regular, angle, -1s. So I look at where x is and the relationship between that and 2 and 7. So in respect to x, where's 2? Opposite. Where's 7? Adjacent. What trig function am I going to use? Tangent. So tangent of the angle, which I don't know, that's why it gets an x, equals 2 over 7. So instead of it being a decimal this time, it's a ratio. I'm going to do the exact same thing I just did, which is tangent -1, 2 divided by 7. And again, without the word stored, you have to do 2 divided by 7, then hit tangent -1. You should get 15.94. I'll just say 94, right? Which rounds to what if I said nearest degree?
16.
Good. You have to do 2 divided by 7, second tangent. 2 divided by 7. You did 2 divided by 7 or 7 divided by 2? Right, 2 divided by 7 is 0.28. No. Oh, you have to do 2 divided by 7, second tangent equals. 2 divided by 7. You're in radians? No. 2
I got it now. Yeah, you did hit equals.
divided by 7. And then second tangent. There you go. So you have to hit 2 divided by 7 equals. Otherwise, it's trying to find the tangent of 7. The last thing you enter in. But this is what I'm saying. Like half of the battle is going to be working with that calculator that you're going to use on your test. That's why you want to start practicing on it. Okay? Questions on that? All right. So this one again. Oh, this is the same, right? Yeah. So let's change the value. Make this 3. Oh, no, it's not the same. Why is it not the same?
7 on top.
Right. 7 is now not opposite, right? So to the x, 2 is where? Opposite. 7 is hypotenuse. Which of my trig functions are opposite hypotenuse? Sine of x equals opposite, which is 2, over hypotenuse, which is 7. And I'm going to do sine -1, 2 divided by 7. And then you get 16.6. So if I round that to the nearest degree, that would be what? 17 degrees. Questions? Anybody still coming that down? Okay, so quick recap of what you should know until this point, which is what's going to be covered on your test. 8.1 was our Pythagorean theorem. And its converse. So a squared plus b squared equals c squared is if it is a right triangle, right? So you'll have questions that give you 2 of the 3 sides, and you've got to use the Pythagorean theorem to find the third side. We know how to do that, right? Yes. Then the converse came that if c squared equals a squared plus b squared, what kind of triangle is it? Right. If c squared is greater than a squared plus b squared, now it's obtuse. And then if c squared is less than a squared plus b squared, it is acute. Good. And the biggest thing that we have to do with that is make sure that the biggest side is the one that's by itself, right? So mistakes made on the quiz were like, if I had 2, 4, and 3, you have to make sure the 4 goes on the side by itself, right? So 4 squared would have what relationship to 2 squared plus 3 squared? 16, 4, and 9. And 16 has what relationship to 13? It's greater than, which makes it obtuse. So those are the questions that you'll see from like 8.1. The ones that have 2 of the 3 sides. Let's say it's 3, 4, and you're looking for this side. Something like that, okay? And then also classifying it. Everybody good on that stuff? Yeah? Then came 8.2 with special triangles. So the first one is a 45, 45, 90 triangle. What's the ratio of the sides here? What's opposite the 45? Oh boy.
90.
No, the side length. What's the ratio of the side? What's opposite the 45? A.
Oh, everything
A.
separate.
A opposite the 90. A root 2. So for these, I gave you one of the three sides. You had to figure out the other ones, right? And then we had 30, 60, 90. And for these, Miguel, drop the pass and then go to student services because they called you. These 30, 60, 90. What's opposite the 30?
Is it 2 times A?
Mm-mm. A is the smallest. Think the smallest angle gets the smallest side, which is A. Then the in between is root 3 because that's like a 1.5. So this gets the A root 3. And then 2 is the biggest, so that goes opposite the 90 because that would be the biggest angle. So you had a couple of different ones. In this scenario, one where you were given the side opposite, well, let's say the easy one, where you were given the actual side opposite the 45. So if this is X and this is Y and I gave you 3, then what's Y? Also 3, and X would be 3 root 2. And then you had ones that you had to switch it. You had to solve for the A. So 45, 45. Let's say this is 8, X, Y. Now the side given is the A root 2. So I would say 8 equals A root 2. Divide both sides by root 2. And A equals 8 over root 2. Can I leave it like that? No. What do we do?
Times root 2 top and bottom.
Good. 8 root 2 over 2, which is 4 root 2. And then that's going to be both of these sides. And then we had 3 scenarios with 30, 60, 90. One where you get given the 30, opposite the 30. So if I want this and I want this, this is my A. This is my A root 3. This is my 2A. So if 3 is A, then X is 3 root 3. And if A is 3, then Y 2 times 3, which is 6. Then you had where you were given opposite the 90. Again, this is A. This is A root 3. This is 2A. So this time you know 2A. If 2A is 12, then A is what? 6. So this side would be 6, and this side would be 6 root 3. And then the last kind, which is the hardest, is when you're given opposite the 60. Because if this is again A, this is A root 3. This is 2A. 12 equals A root 3. And then I have to divide both sides by root 3. And rationalize. So A is 4 root 3, which means Y is 4 root 3. X would be 2 times 4 root 3, or 8 root 3. So those are all the possible scenarios for the 8-2. 45, 45, 90, where you get given a leg, and you have to figure out the hypotenuse. 45, 45, 90, where you get given the hypotenuse, and you got to figure out the leg. And then 30, 60, 90, where you're given the opposite the 30, opposite the 90, or opposite the 60. So you'll pretty much see one of each of those different kinds. If you're trying to like plan for later the week, that's what you can expect to see.
Names of the